You're watching Beyond Market. Welcome, I'm Esther, Awoniyi. Many thanks for joining us. On today's show, we'll gain more insight on the African political violence risks and find out how businesses on the continent can better prepare for them. You can join today's conversation with the hashtag Beyond Market. So you can send your thoughts, your comments to my Twitter handle too. It's at Esther O. Awoniyi. Now, political violence is often associated but not limited to civil commotion, strikes, sabotage, and in more extreme cases, terrorism, revolutions, coups, and civil war. Now, for businesses, the effects could be quite devastating. But has Africa fared better in handling these risks in the past decade? Bjorn Reusswig, the head of political violence and hostile environmental solutions at Allianz, joins me now for today's discussion. Bjorn, thank you for taking the time out to join us. I'd like to just start with 2019 before we look just to see how the trends have panned out in the last decade or so. This year, we saw strong political activity with the elections that we saw, especially in the two biggest economies on the continent. Now, how were investors preparing for any possible fallout or any possible effects from political risks?
So what we see in the insurance market is that our clients, and both domestic clients and international clients, that they spend quite a substantial amount of time in planning the security not only of their own premises but also of their supply chains. This has been a major undertaking going forward, and we see that our clients do anticipate not only to have like catastrophic events, like you said, like a terrorism event or a civil war, but they also plan for smaller scale events like riots, like violent demonstrations, which could interfere with their supply chains.
Well, for 2019, with the political activities we've seen, some didn't pan out as expected. How did your clients, how did businesses adjust to that?
Yeah, as I said, planning is, I think it's key. Have crisis management plans at hand. They should be rehearsed so that if something happens, even if it's only a small event, that everybody in the company knows what to do, how to minimize the potential impact on their organization, and of course to ensure that the safety of everybody, of their staff, is ensured. That includes regular conversations with the insurer. That includes regular conversation with law enforcement on the ground, and just to be aware of the situation. Knowledge really helps our clients and other businesses to be prepared if incidents do occur.
Okay, Bjorn, let's take a few steps back now and just give us a sense, paint a picture for us here, what the trends have been from, of course, from a political risk point of view, what the trends have been in the last decade.
Yeah, last decade, that's a long time. So, I mean, big terrorism events started actually or became more prevalent in the business environment, of course, with 9/11. 9/11 was actually a game changer. It not only led to big disruption in the insurance market, meaning that terrorism as a peril was excluded from the property policies, and being the birthing hour of the terrorism and the PV market. That was the most important event, but having an even bigger impact on what we see today, that was in 2011, 2012, that was what we call the Arab Spring, which started off in a small town in Tunisia and then spread across pretty much the entire North African and Middle Eastern region. And this event showed a lot of companies, especially manufacturing companies, that buying terrorism insurance alone is not going to do the trick. So that there is a lot more out there, like you said in your opening statement, ranging from revolution to civil war or even war, which has traditionally not been covered in insurance policies. Having said that, This was the major changing point on the insurance side, also affecting our clients. When you look at the security situation as such, it is always volatile, especially here in Africa. We talk about a very risk-diverse continent. So we have a lot of countries which are perfectly fine, where we don't see any terrorism threat. We don't see any threat of war or civil war. But SRCC, or strikes, riots, civil commotion, this is something which we see regular, mostly localized, mostly around election or other political unstable times. This has not really changed. That's something which has been on the continent for quite some while, but given the importance of African countries nowadays on a global scale, including global supply chains, the impact of these rather localized events on global economy are going to grow and are recognized by the clients on a global scale.
Now, I know that you say that, the risks associated, especially with political violence, should not be underestimated. What we're seeing more of these days, and I know that a lot of businesses are talking about that, is a possible fallout of the US-China trade war. We know that talks are ongoing, but we have begun to see some ripple effects. And I know that businesses are also concerned about, especially from a supply chain disruption point of view. But what are your thoughts on that? How are businesses looking at the trade talks, the trade tension, and how are they bracing for any potential fallout?
Yeah, I think there are twofold problems. The tariffs which are now imposed from China to the US and vice versa, they're of course making trade more difficult and more expensive. That can lead to people lose their jobs. People lose their jobs sometimes in environments where it's very difficult to get new jobs or to find new jobs. And that really leads to a more unstable situation on the ground. So people are angry, people are not happy with their economic situation or even with their political support in the respective country, and they tend to demonstrate. And unfortunately, a lot of these demonstrations can turn violent. So there is a direct impact on reduction of global trade to political instability in certain countries. That's the one side. The other side, you rightfully said, it has a very, very strong impact on global supply chains, because production gets a lot more expensive when you have to apply tariffs on these goods. And you must not forget, you're not applying these tariffs only once at the final product. As soon as you import or export goods, which are not finished goods, but parts, you have to apply these tariffs each and every time you cross the border. So in total, it costs a lot of money. And if something costs a lot of money, unfortunately, in most cases, it also costs work employment.
Now, for businesses, perhaps from conversations with your clients and other businesses across the continent, what would you say are their top 3, perhaps top 5 countries that they perceive or think pose the highest political violence risk?
When we speak to our international clients, Nigeria is definitely the country which comes up at rank 1. That's not only because of the situation actually in Nigeria, it's just because of the importance of the country of global supply chains, because a lot of our clients do have presence, do have manufacturing sites in Nigeria. When we just focus on the risk situation, certainly countries like Mali, the DRC, or even Kenya will always be part of the discussion. Kenya is also a very important part of the global economy. Mali, DRC, to a certain extent, but not as much and nowhere near like the importance, like I said, Nigeria or Kenya.
I know that obviously this has we've seen rising rising political violence threat, sparking interest in the specialty insurance market. Help us understand, I mean, to what extent are we seeing this happening, and are we seeing a surge in the take-up rate?
Yeah, so we do see certainly an uptick in, as you said, the traditional political violence insurance, which covers everything from terrorism over all these escalation phases up to full-fledged war. But we also see definitely more interest when it comes to what we call hostile environment solutions. So products where you ensure that the physical health and safety of your staff, wherever they travel, is ensured, that we provide not only financial reimbursement, but where we are happy to provide the partnership of our crisis consultant company, and that we help our clients through any type of crisis related to staff.
Well, what events would you say businesses are keeping their eye on right now on the African continent that they consider to be perhaps of high political risk?
So a lot of our clients, they actually monitor elections. So that's again a service we provide via our security partner, is that we have kind of a calendar so that our clients can see in which region, and I'm not talking about national elections only, we are talking about regional elections or even local elections, because from experience, these are the times where violent protests do occur, which, as I said before, they are not catastrophic events, but they are hindering your day-to-day work. Your staff can't go to your factory, for example. You cannot deliver your own goods, or you can't get supply into your factories. These are the events which actually have a day-to-day impact on our clients, and planning them and being aware that there is an election going on in the next week in that particular area where you operate. This is crucial, because then you can take measurements against that. You can stack up on supply. You can tell your staff, please stay at home, and this day we do more work next week, but these 2 days or these 3 days, please stay at home. It's for your safety, and we shut down the factory.
Okay, Bjorn, I must thank you for your time so far. We're just going to pause here and take a break and come back and continue our conversation. I've been speaking to Bjorn Reusswig. He's the head of political violence and hostile environment solutions at Allianz. If you're just joining us, Bjorn Reusswig, head of political violence and hostile environmental solutions at Allianz, is my guest today. And we're discussing how African countries can better prepare for the risks associated with political violence. Bjorn, thank you for your time so far. Let's pick up from where we left off, talking about higher interest in the specialty insurance market. Now, with more inquiries coming from companies looking to, of course, better prepare themselves for any political shocks or shocks as a result of political events beyond their control. How has this helped to shape, or if you will, reshape this segment of the market, or just insurance in general, especially from an innovation point of view?
Yeah, I mean, these products are available in the market for quite some years. So the majority of these products are well established, but the penetration of the market here in Africa, there is still a lot to do from our side, from the insurance industry, to inform and educate about the availability of these products and how they actually can help the clients on the ground to ensure that in case of an event happening, that the financial support is there to rebuild the operation. The logistics support, the information we can provide, or the entire industry of insurance companies can provide to all clients operating in that area. And it's not only limited to political violence. If you do the next step, then there's another market called political risk, where more non-physical perils are going to be insured. So when we talk about the possibilities of confiscation, expropriation, or currency inconvertibilities, stuff like that, unfair calling of bonds, loss of licenses. So all these products which are available, as you said, in the specialty market, they can help to ensure that business here is more resilient against external shocks, mainly coming from the political world.
But what about forecasts? Because sometimes, some analysts say they can predict, how events are going to pan out, looking down perhaps 5-10 years down the line. And even though, those events can be quite unpredictable, especially on the African continent, which many times are usually always also exacerbated from what's happening outside of the continent. And right now, the US-China trade talks. So how easy is it for the market, insurance companies such as yours, to help companies forecast, plan, and just have the ability to look ahead in terms of how events could pan out?
Yeah, forecasting these events, that's the $1 million question always in our business. So I think we all need to understand that there will be no accurate forecasting over a longer period of time. The past has proven us, the entire industry, that there will be events which nobody had on their plate. Nobody was think about that's going to happen. I mentioned earlier the Arab Spring. That's one of these events. Or the Ukraine-Russia conflict, that was also one of these events. So we have to first of all, we need to understand that there will be limitations to predicting what's going to happen in the next 6 months or even tomorrow. But what we can do is we do have track records of pretty much each and every country. So what we can say is, okay, if you look at the past of that particular country, there might be a higher possibility that something is going to happen in this way or in the other way. Of course, we can provide, or the insurance industry can provide daily updates about situations as they evolve. Hong Kong, again, nobody thought that the protests in Hong Kong are going to be this hefty as they are right now. But having said that, we give all our clients exposed to that particular event and day-to-day updates saying, okay, this is going to happen. This is what we would like to introduce you to do on the ground. That can help either protecting your business or your staff or both. So it is a difficult one, but going forward, we always tell our clients, be prepared for the worst. That will really help you if something happens. And as I said, we really struggle to predict exactly what is going to happen, but we can deliver, like, how shall I say that, potential outcomes of evolving situations. So what we normally do is we look at a situation and then say, okay, there's the most likely outcome, describe what we think the most likely outcome is. There's a worst case and there's a best case. And we can put like a percentage number on these three options, but it is an assumption, not more, not less.
But I mean, going forward, for many of these companies, you see a rising number of companies making this a priority for themselves, protecting the business, protecting the bottom line, and committing the required amount of investments needed to, patronize this particular segment of the market.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it's not only the pressure from the global economy that all their suppliers need to be prepared and insured for these events. It actually comes from the companies on the ground itself, that they fully understand we are in an environment where things can happen. And first of all, we want to be insured, we want to be prepared. Some of them do have quite good crisis management plans in place already with their internal resources, but they want to mirror it and want to just have a second opinion on whether these plans are sufficient or if they should be tweaked at one end or the other. And of course, financial reimbursement is definitely increasing the stability of planning, long-term planning for all the operations on the ground.
Now let's look at the other side of the coin, the insurance business itself. Talk to us. What is the most difficult aspect of your business, and of course the kind of exposure that you have too? What kind of risks are you also facing?
So terrorism definitely is the most difficult for us to get our hands around, because difficult in that perspective means you can't plan for terrorism losses. They occur without any warning in most cases. They occur at places which you might not have expected them. And they can occur in every form you can think of. It could be a rather small and contained event like a shooting or a small bombing, but it also could mean that a mega event actually hits not only one or two companies, but hits an entire country or economy. Especially when we talk about tourism. Tourism business is one of the most sensible business when it comes to terrorist events, and it can have a devastating impact on regional or even international tourism.
Now, going forward, still talking about forecasts, I'm interested to know how insurance companies, especially Allianz, how you're planning from an innovation point of view. Obviously, you can only do there's only so much you can do in terms of predicting, events, especially political violence events, and just helping your clients, prepare for them as best as they can, as best as you can help them too. But in terms of how you see products evolving in the coming years, what can you tell us? I mean, do you have different scenarios in terms of how you're going to tailor these your products to fit different scenarios that could play out in the coming years?
Yeah, so what AGCS or Allianz is currently heavily working on is, first of all, to speed up the flow of information to our clients. What does that mean? So when we underwrite a risk and when we insure property globally, we geocode with lead longs every single premise we insure globally. So, and we are not only putting down the lead longs, we are putting down all the details. So what is insured? What is the limit? What's the insured value on the ground? All these information are centralized in a computer system. If something's happening in that area, and we can draw circles around all these properties saying, okay, for terrorism event, maybe radius impact like 1 kilometer or 2. But for an SRCC event, we can say, okay, it's 10, 15, 20 kilometers. Or for a war, it would be the entire country. That's not only helping us to understand our exposure, our aggregation situation better, but of course we share this information with our clients, that they are informed pretty much in real time if there is something evolving on the ground, something happening which could or has already affected property of our insureds. So this is definitely something we as Allianz are working on and heavily investing in. So to be able to prepare our clients a lot faster than we used to be in the past. This, of course, comes with possibilities for predictive forecasting. I would say forecasting, but only in a way that we can say, okay, we learned from the past, because we also geocoded pretty much every single terrorism event since 1970, for example, and put that on the map so that we can see, okay, in that area, that is traditionally a hotspot for terrorist attacks. That will not tell you anything about if there is something going to happen tomorrow or next week or next month, but at least it will tell us and our clients something about the historical probability of a terrorist attack in that particular area.
Okay, Bjorn, thank you so much for talking to us today. We're going to have to leave it there. Thank you for being a part of our show today. I've been speaking to Bjorn Reusswig. He's the head of political violence and hostile environment solutions at Allianz, talking about how African businesses can better prepare themselves against political violence risks on the continent. Well, that's it on Beyond Markets. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Remember, you can watch the show at 5 p.m. West African time daily and have access to all previous episodes of the show on our website, that's cnbcafrica.com. You can also stay engaged with the hashtag Beyond Markets. You can send your thoughts, your comments to my Twitter handle too. It's at Esther Awoniyi. For myself and the team, it's bye for now.